Hi, my name is Kaylin. I'm going to be reacting to things not to say it to someone with OCD. And as someone with OCD, it's definitely dealing with it. I've definitely had severe OCD during periods of my life, and it's definitely made me the person I am today. And working through it and dealing with it, and learning to. Here, I'll just say, one of my main obsessions that I've had is just different reiterations and different reasons why not, all these just a super complex analyses of whether people in my life love me and how much they love me. And even if they've shown themselves to love me very much, I still find ways to doubt that, and then you can never really get direct reassurance because even if they tell you, you still have doubts and you're like, well, you could be lying and all those things. But with everything, you just have to work through it, and you have to face your fears. And with OCD, you have to try to just keep living and not reassure yourself over those. And then they decrease in time, and it obviously ebbs and flows into how bad it is. For instance, if you don't get a lot of sleep, they can really ramp up and everything. But there is definitely hope, and they do decrease in intensity, duration, and everything. So, yes, there's definitely hope. Now, let's get into this. Started playing a little bit. Okay.
Just smoke a joint and chill. So if I move this, does this bother you?
Yeah, mine are none of the ones that are really shown in media very often. So, none of that stuff,
this is
no.
the best one.
Oh, I'm a bit OCD too.
I'm a bit, I just got the O. Does that not really
Yeah,
mean
it's
you're
not
OCD?
just
that's
being...
making me really OCD. I feel really OCD about that. It drives...
Yeah, it's definitely... The whole thing about the definition of a disorder is that it's something that significantly impairs your life, and there's all these categories, at least an hour a day it takes up just devoted to the obsessions and causing distress and stuff, and interfering with daily functioning. So saying you're a bit OCD just doesn't make sense. It's also OCD stands for obsessive compulsive disorder, so it's like you're saying I'm a little bit obsessive compulsive disorder, and it's kind of a weird thing to say. I mean, I understand what you mean. Most people understand what you mean, but it does trivialize it. I made a video talking about this, and I'm not gonna condemn people obviously for doing it, but I do think it's important to spread awareness because for people who have OCD and people who have loved ones who have OCD, I just think it's important to understand OCD because it can be very powerful to identify OCD and treat it as such, especially if you can do that early so it doesn't just keep getting worse and worse, because it will get worse and worse if you don't deal with it the right way. So let's keep going.
It's me fucking insane. I'm a little bit obsessive compulsive disorder. If you actually say it in full, it doesn't make sense.
You're either particular or you have a mental illness.
It's like there's two people kind of fighting, and one's going, that's totally ridiculous. Of course that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Of course that bad thing's not going to happen. The other one's like, what if?
There's different levels of insight that people have also about whether something's OCD or not.
But I still have to do it, or have to do it. And I think that's the hardest bit to describe to people.
Just have this really intense feeling that I'm just that I'm a danger to everyone I know.
There's nothing glamorous, there's nothing funny, there's nothing quirky about that. It's horrible.
It's hell.
It can be
You're so
complete hell.
anal.
Isn't that
okay,
Freud?
Probably I'm a bit anal, to be honest, but isn't everyone?
I'm meticulous by personality, anyway. I'm not meticulous because of OCD.
I think that's a better term for what you're classing as your OCD, is being a bit anal.
Yeah.
It's like saying to someone who's depressed, oh, you're such a downer. Or
Yeah, it's you're such a whiny bitch. You wouldn't
Yeah,
say it.
I guess until you've
How many times a day do you...
I guess until you've really experienced it and dealt with it and struggled with it, whatever the mental illness is, that it's difficult for people to realize the extent of, because it's not just the outside. So obviously when you have severe mental illnesses, the outside can present itself, the symptoms can present themselves in a very significant way. They can, but a lot of times the internal is very, very intense. Internal meaning just what's going on in your brain, and even if you are able to appear normal, that does not mean anything. That does not mean anything. It does not mean you're not suffering in that moment. So just keep that in mind. You really never know what people are going through. Sometimes people can just put on a smile, and everyone just thinks they're so happy, and it's not always true. And I think it's we're getting better at talking about that as a society and like being more open about everything, and I think that's absolutely wonderful. Yeah.
Wash your hands.
Enough to make them bleed, cracked, raw, painful, and whenever I go for a shit.
It was never a case of like, right, they need to be washed 100 times a day, and I'll feel absolutely
Yeah, I
fine.
don't
The kid's great
really
news.
wash my hands
It
that
was
much
always
more
a case of, no, I need to wash it
than
in
most
this
people.
certain order for it to be fine.
When I worked in a hotel, I had to wash my hands constantly, because they want to get germs on the glasses. They'd be like, you've killed them, what are you doing?
I could see that my hands were clean, but it was sort of like a mental contamination, like they didn't feel clean, and the bad thoughts hadn't gone, and so I needed to consistently do this, like washing rituals.
You know, I don't have OCD things about cleaning, but even if I did, that wouldn't be because I enjoyed it. It would be because I have horrible intrusive thoughts that if I don't do the cleaning, then you know, I don't feel they're going to go away.
I feel like that should be fairly obvious. If people are like,
As like a dance.
like who enjoys like doing repetitive things.
That's like the worst club dance I've ever been.
Do you like odd or even numbers? Well, 69 is my favourite number.
I don't like any fucking numbers. Mine's to do with numbers. All numbers piss me off.
You'll turn the TV up and you'll put it on like 21, and they're like, you can't
Yeah,
put another
speaking
number.
on this,
Why?
when I was little, I used to do certain things. Like, I'm like, oh, I always gonna leave the TV on. Like, actually, for a long time it was 10, then it was 11. But this was when I was little, and then I just, I don't know. As soon as I identified that it was OCD, first of all, it never really gave me that much distress, those things, and so it was like, whatever. I just did it. And I really didn't have a reason why, and it didn't cause any negative things, so I really didn't question why. I mean, like, sometimes I did, but I was like, whatever, I don't care, because it's not negative at all. Anyway, what was I saying? But I identified it, like, when I got diagnosed with OCD, I was like, I just went back in time, like, thought about all these things, and I'm like, oh, that may have been OCD to an extent, like, just, like, some little predispositions to thinking in that way. But I also could identify it as what it was and know that things weren't actually going to, anything bad was not going to happen, and I could identify as OCD, and then so you just be like, okay, well, you purposely don't do even those simple things that really didn't cause any distress, and like, but again, okay, I'm still going, I'm sorry, I'm just thinking and talking, and it's, I suck at editing videos, so try not to ramble and stuff. Okay, moving on.
It doesn't bother me.
Well, actually, I like even numbers and I like multiples of 5.
But I'd always have to say it in like 5, so like no.
It really doesn't bother me though at all, numbers, like what
on
number
my
of
brain
things.
for sort of like a month, and then I'll sort of like think, oh, you know, I'm doing alright with that now, and then it'll be the 7s come in, and it'll be the 12s come in.
I think more generous.
Yeah, for me, stuff like that where you can just be like, no, like, I'm just gonna keep living and it's fine, whatever, and I know nothing is gonna change in the universe, I guess you could say, because you just keep living and then nothing happens. It's like, okay, whatever, like, you know it's not going to. But for me, like, and I don't want to say, because I do know that you still get anxious even if you understand logically that doesn't make any sense, but for me, I don't really experience that much anxiety with things that I know for a fact are not true, whereas a lot of people do. But I don't. It's only when it's like something abstract that you can never really prove, and so that's why a lot of times it has to do with what other people think, because you can never really know, at least not yet. Maybe one day we'll get to reading the brains and the neurons and stuff of people, and that's a whole nother discussion about like, should we be doing that? It's like, what? You ask, well, can we do this? Not if we should. That's a whole nother discussion. Anyway, let's keep going.
It's like assuming people with OCD have this thing with numbers where, like, I think when you look at it, it goes so much deeper than just odd or even.
So, if I
This is stupid. Okay, I'm sorry.
I know what the end of the sentence is. Does it bother you?
Only if you stick it up my arse.
They'll watch the way I talk, they'll watch the way I hold a pen, they'll watch the way I'll, like, anything I do, they'll be looking
It's just
at me like,
oversimplification of what's
OCD
actually
or-
happening,
yeah,
and
it's
what's
not
going on.
OCD, mate. That's just how I do stuff.
These BuzzFeed things all the time that say like 20 things that will really annoy you if you've got OCD, and these people commenting being like, oh my god, it's so annoying, it really sets off my OCD. Yeah, it doesn't bother me, and I think for a lot of people it wouldn't bother them, but for some people it will cause them huge amounts of anxiety, and why would you want to do that to someone? That's just really mean.
It must be hard.
It must be hard to date.
Yeah.
It's hard to date anyway, let alone have an OCD on top of it.
You don't want to bring it up immediately because, way to sort of like kill
So I used to have like some level of like relationship OCD, and I guess you could still say I do, but I really don't, and that's like where you obsess about relationships and like the concept of the one and stuff. But in order to combat this type of obsessional thinking, I've had to really like really think through my beliefs, my takes, and how to navigate them, and it really made me be introspective to the point where I'm like, okay, how I view the world, dating, relationships, friendships, everything now is at a place that I never would have gotten to if I didn't have OCD and I didn't obsess, because it's like when you're that low in your emotions and thinking and obsessions, it like forces you to really question everything, and then you can just thrive instead of just being like in the middle and just being like accepting a lot of things that society tells you to do and everything. So no, it's not very difficult, but I also don't put a lot of pressure on it anymore at all. I just like to love people. That's it. And I also am not for like romantic relationship supremacy. Like, romantic relationships are not always better. I think it's very important to also value all types of relationships, whether that's your friends, family, anything. I think it's all about the connection. So, yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Ways to bring the vibe down.
I do sometimes generally bring it up, like the number thing.
Get it in early doors.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I love that top you're wearing. I've got OCD, by the way.
Be dating not long ago, and I completely lied about everything, because I thought, obviously she knows I'm a bit like, a bit of that, and she might think, oh no, I can't know.
I'm very open about
I
it.
went through a period where I would just get smashed and sleep around, because it just
about my
took
OCD,
away all of the worries of dating.
You should never hide it. You should tell people
It's hard to
straight
tell
away.
someone in 2 minutes on speed dating.
No, it's not.
OCD, huh?
You'll be able to.
Well, nobody is normal. Nothing
That is true. That's so true.
Everyone's fucked
Like,
up.
define
Yeah,
normal.
right.
Like,
Somebody offered to take my OCD away, I'd give it to them on a plate. Like, you don't have it.
It makes me
that's a difficult question, right?
change the way I live my life.
Because as I just said, it makes you the struggle with it and working through it makes you question things. It makes you analyze life and the way you're living, the way you think, and it makes you who you are. A lot of times for the better. You're more empathetic. You're more understanding of other people's plights, and but like whether after you already went through a lot, like most of that, whether you would want to not have it then, that's a different discussion. I actually don't know. I don't know. However, that's not a question at this point, so let's move on.
Life to the point where everything is a bit worrisome.
Everyone's got their own pathway to get better, and I think that took a long time for me to realise. And as soon as I did, that was when things started getting better.
I had therapy and I went on medication and I met other people with OCD and I got better, and now I think I live a normal life. Like my OCD still is there and I'm still working at it every day to try and get rid of it
Well, it also depends what you mean by a
feel
normal life.
upset.
Like, do you mean like your daily activities, your job and your social life and all that, or do you mean like your literal internal state during all of that? Because I do think when you have OCD to some level, with some level of severity, you are going to be impaired in your functioning, and you want to combat that so you can live a quote normal life and not be impaired. But I also think that there is something to be said about like your brain not obsessing even a little bit when you're living even though you're able to now live the normal life. And so I feel like that's definitely a question, anyway.
Saying like that stuff isn't going to be perfect.
Yeah.
So I think that's to a great extent what OCD is.
Imagine going to a theme park and then someone coming up to you going, you can't go on any of these rides, and you see everyone else having loads of fun. I think that's a great example. It's like you're in a little bubble. Someone going, should you go on that ride? You can't go on it.
But then
It's like you're there, but you're not there. That's why.
like, we can go on the log flume together.
No, you can't go on anything. Yeah, you should explain this again to her.
Oh. Random. Okay. Here. Let me increase this. How do I do? Oh, I can't increase it anymore. What is this? Oh, that flips it. Okay. I'm just gonna put this in the middle. Okay. So thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Maybe you learned something. Maybe you didn't. Whatever. No, not whatever. I do think it's very important. I just suck at ending these, and so I just say I don't know. Whenever I'm rambling, I say, oh, I don't know. Okay. Anyway, I'm serious. Take care of yourselves, please. And no, I say take care at the end. I can't say take care of yourselves and then, okay, take care. Just take care, okay? Bye.